Today, we're going to dive into the real reason you might find yourself choosing inaction over and over again. And I'm willing to bet it is not the reason you've been telling yourself. So let me just ask you something straight up. Do you ever find yourself thinking, I'm just so lazy or distracted? Or maybe that your motivation has just completely vanished? If that sounds even a little bit familiar, then you're going to want to hear at this next part. Stop. Seriously, just stop that thought right where it is, because what if I told you that entire story you've been playing on a loop in your head is just plain wrong? What if all that procrastination, that lack of focus, what if it isn't a sign that your brain is broken or failing you? What if it's actually a sign that it's doing its number one job, which is to protect you? This gets us to a really common misconception about how our minds work. And honestly, it's all about why we're basically taught to blame ourselves for these feelings. Let's be real. Nobody sat us down in school and explained any of this. The story we all learned was pretty simple. If you're not being productive, well, that's on you. It's a personal failing, a flaw in your character. But we're going to get to the truth today. We're going to look at the real reasons why you sometimes just can't focus, why you put off even the smallest things, and why your motivation can feel totally dead. And spoiler alert, it has almost nothing to do with willpower. It's about biology. So, this brings us to the most critical part of this whole thing, your brain's actual number one job. And trust me, it's not what modern culture tells you it is. Just think about this contrast for a second. We spend our lives chasing success, right? Productivity. We build everything around those goals. But your brain's fundamental design, the one developed over millions of years, has one single priority that overrides everything else: your survival. So what flips that survival switch? Well, it's not just a lion chasing you anymore. In our world, it's triggered by things like emotional pain, intense pressure, that deep fear of failing, or, constantly comparing ourselves to others. When your brain senses these things, it goes right into energy-saving survival mode. And what does that survival mode actually look like day to day? Well, it looks a lot like procrastination. It looks like scrolling endlessly on your phone. It can even show up as sleeping way too much or just avoiding your responsibilities. These are not signs of laziness. They are symptoms of a brain that's just trying to keep you safe and conserve energy. Okay, but to really get why your brain does this, we have to look back. We have to understand how your past experiences have literally wired you for how you act today. I mean, think about it. If you grew up in a place where you were always being criticized, your brain quickly learned that, hey, trying new things often leads to getting hurt. Or what if your efforts were just ignored, no matter how hard you tried? Your brain took a little note of that, right? It logged the fact that putting in all that energy didn't lead to anything good. And if you were told over and over in a million different ways that you're just not good enough, well, your brain got a very, very clear message about the dangers of even trying. So this is the big one, the crucial point. Your inaction is not a defect. It is a learned safety strategy. Over time, your brain figured out that doing nothing is simply safer. It uses less energy, and most importantly, it prevents the emotional pain of trying and failing. You're not lazy, you're just tired from fighting all these invisible battles. Okay, so now that we get the why, the big question is, what do we do about it? And this isn't about brute force, it's about gently, carefully rewiring this whole protective system. The way forward is actually pretty simple. It involves 3 steps. First, you have to stop the self-hate. Second, you start making tiny promises to yourself. And third, you have to consciously use a kinder inner voice. Let's break that down. Step 1 is everything. It's the foundation. You absolutely cannot bully your brain into changing. When you do that, it just digs its heels in and doubles down on protection. The only way the brain rewires itself, the only way it learns new things, is when it feels safe. Punishment creates a threat. Safety creates possibility. Now for step 2. This is all about building trust with yourself again. So forget these huge, scary goals. Make a tiny promise, like read 1 page of a book. Work on that big project for just 5 minutes. The goal here isn't massive progress. It's about getting one small, undeniable win to prove to your brain that taking action can actually be safe and maybe even feel good. And finally, step 3. You gotta start talking to yourself like you're someone you actually care about. Seriously, because your brain is always listening. And guess what? It listens to your inner voice more than anyone else's. That voice sets the entire emotional weather forecast for your life. So, when you put all of this together, it creates this huge shift in your relationship with yourself. You stop fighting. You move from a state of constant war to one of partnership. You're working with your brain now, not against it. And this is the ultimate point. That endless, frustrating search for motivation, it's a trap. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more discipline. You don't need to hustle harder. What you need is understanding. Because the second you truly understand why your brain is hitting the brakes, the moment you can respond with kindness and safety instead of with frustration and judgment, it stops fighting you and it starts working with you. So I'm going to leave you with this question to really think about. What if this part of you, the part you've been fighting for so long, isn't your enemy at all? What if, with just a little bit of understanding, your brain could become your greatest ally?